Hey everybody! Welcome to Friday the 13th, the series. I'm your producer Robert, and I'm your host Robert. Yes, in an effort to please absolutely nobody, I'm going stag again and tackling this special episode alone. If you haven't listened to the two previous Needful Things specials, it doesn't matter, none of this matters. So let's get started. I would agree with you that specials probably don't seem so special when they're every other episode, but I assure you, my use of that word was always ironic. Truth be told, Hill Street isn't available to return yet, but even if she was, I want to talk about Needful Things while all three versions, the theatrical cut, the television cut, and the book, are all still fresh on my mind grapes. Love ya, 30 Rock. This go-round, I'm going to talk about the biggest ways in which the movies diverge from the book while frequently checking in with my Matryoshka doll of nested predictions. If you enjoy Charlie Kaufman's Synecdoche, New York as much as I do, you might find this not unbearable. At the end, we'll finally put some numbers on the board and see if I made the major leagues of pop culture horror prognosticators. As of the time of this recording, both the theatrical cut and the television cut are available to watch on YouTube for free, and I stumbled across a website where the audiobook was available to listen to, also gratis. That said, I'm not championing piracy here because I don't recommend you seek out any of them, and should you spend even a moment of the precious gift of life on them, you've truly paid the greatest price of all. In case it still isn't clear, even though I'm not going to give a complete recounting of the book, far from it, I am once again going to get deep into spoilers. Starting now. I listened to the audiobook, so I don't know if the printed version's opening lines are preceded by the word prelude, but I'm guessing they are because that's what it is. An unnamed narrator fills us in on the proclivities and peccadillos of small-town New England, using our dramatist personae as examples. Oddly enough, Eddie Warburton, the black janitor from the film, is one of the very first characters introduced, then hit with a racial epithet. Moving on. Prediction review. I said, in the background we see a black janitor who only pops up for a brief moment much later. Is there more of this character in the book and TV cut? Aye for the TV cut, and knowing King, definitely an aye for the book, although I don't think he can shine or anything. Wrong. Despite this cut being over 3 hours long, the janitor really doesn't get any extra screen time. That said, for the reasons stated last time, I think he definitely shows up and is fleshed out in the book. Correct. It's a squeaker, as all we really learn about him is he has to endure a uniquely New England form of racism and that he works at the municipal building, not the Catholic Church. But he's one of 3 characters who act more as errand boys for Devil Von Sydow. Yeah, I'm still using my proprietary handmade movie sobriquets. Than simply people who owe him one specific favor. Plus, he gets a death scene involving a double KO shootout with a racist he's hated for years, and who has me wondering if he was the inspiration for the Dana Carvey show's sketch, Skinheads from Maine. Please keep in mind, kids, that sketch was written at a time when the concept was so absurd as to be funny. And, in that death, he does answer a question I asked about how much these characters are all under Devil Von Sydow's thrall. Prediction review. I said, then again, he's admitting to murder moments after meeting a man he doesn't know from Adam. So, maybe he is being influenced in some way? I don't know. Do the book and TV cut explain why some people are more susceptible than others? The book? Yeah. The TV cut? No, sir. Correct. The TV cut answers nothing. I'm starting to think the book probably doesn't either, but I'll let my stand for now. Wrong. In the book, Devil Von Sydow specifically states that some people are tough customers, so it does imply some people simply aren't susceptible to their desires. Also, regarding Eddie, as he's about to die, some part of his mind begins to fight back a little, with the spell fully broken at the moment of death. So the book does confirm people are under a hypnotic spell, but not why some people are more susceptible. Although I find it a little odd this prelude focuses on the less important characters, I like it as an opening for the book, and it answers the question the TV cut raised. Did the book begin with a lengthy car chase scene? Prediction review. I said, was this chase sequence in the book? Car chases feel like more of a movie thing, but King does love cars. Ooh, tough one. This sequence adds nothing to the story, characters, or themes, so I hope it isn't in the book. Plus, the destruction of this car means the film will soon have Devil Von Sydow arriving in a much lamer vehicle, which I can't imagine King doing, so I'll go with no, sir. Correct. The book has a lot of cars, but none give chase. Prediction review. I said, is this exact car in the book? Being the car guy he is, I'm going to make my first guess that this old black Mercedes is exactly as described in pages of detail by King in the book. So that is a firm aye-up to begin. For the reason already stated, I 100% stand by this prediction. Wrong. Instead of a black 58 Mercedes-Benz, in the book, Devil Von Sydow drives a Tucker Talisman, a model that was conceived but never actually produced. So I thought he'd have a cool car, but I honestly expected at least a few paragraphs of lavish description, and it never occurred to me it would be a different vehicle because the 58 Benz felt right for the character. That said, I actually think the book wins this contest, and we missed out not getting to see the Talisman. True, although the average moviegoer wouldn't know the car's history, neither does the average book reader, and the car looks phantasmal and like nothing else ever produced, so I think it would have been a more interesting choice for the movie. Just to add to my defeat, Master Brian later imagines Devil Von Sydow driving alternately a Cadillac and Lincoln Mark IV. So 2 luxury cars, neither of which is a Benz. Take that, me. We meet Cora Rusk, Master Brian's mom, much earlier in the TV cut, and earlier still in the book, as she and Master Brian are among the first characters mentioned. Prediction review. I said, I assume she was supposed to be a prostitute, but it turns out we'll see her several more times without ever meeting her because this is Master Brian's mother. Is she developed more in the book and TV cut? Oh, that's a fat stack of eye-up drizzled with maple syrup. She's definitely an unfortunate actor whose lines were cut from the theatrical release, and I feel certain we learn more about her in the book. Correct. As we already know, she has substantially more screen time in this cut, so I suspect she's a major character in the book as well. Correct. She has a much bigger role in the book, and man, does it get weird. More on that in a second. Myra is also mentioned much earlier, but she's a friend of Master Brian's mom and not Bonnie. Prediction review. I said, does Myra play a bigger role in the book? My guess? Correct. Does she ever? I'm going to end up referring to my notes half a dozen times while writing this for fear I'm not describing something from the book or movie, but a dream I had based on someone else telling me about their dream. Myra and Master Brian's mom both lust after Elvis Presley, leading to them coveting this same needful thing, a framed picture of Elvis, and eventually shooting each other to death over said picture. It's exactly as strange and schlocky as it sounds. In the book, Master Brian is almost hit by a car before arriving at Curious Goods, not after, which brings us to a prediction review. I said, was the relationship between these characters and the actual words, make you squeak, lifted straight from the book? Aya and aya. Correct. On both counts. Turns out this character is Hugh Priest, and he's a real jerk. He's also the town drunk who will later engage in a double KO shootout with the town's bartender, which is a connection I must confess I did not make, despite the number of times I watched and rewatched the movies. His infamous line, make you squeak, actually appears a second time in the book, during one of Master Brian's dreams. Way to double down, King. Prediction review. I said, inside, the devil informs Brian he's been there before, despite Brian's casual protests that he hasn't, in a strange echo of Kubrick's The Shining. Is this referencing something from the book and TV cut? This has to be referencing something from the book. I'd put my money on a dream sequence, but maybe the devil just caught him snooping before the store opened. The longer cut feels less likely, but then why the reference here? So I'll stick with a less confident Wrong. There is zero explanation in the TV cut. Time that could have been spent developing that creepy and esoteric concept was, instead, spent on a car chase. Wrong. Twice, for those who want to rub it in. There is zero mention of this in the book, so I have absolutely no idea why it was in the movie. I had expected an elaborate and silly dream sequence of Devil Von Sydow reaching out to Master Brian, beckoning him to the store, or at least a chance encounter, but no. Master Brian just shows up out of youthful curiosity. It couldn't be less interesting, and I couldn't be more wrong. In one divergence from the movie, Master Brian touches a petrified piece of Noah's Ark. Try to forget about what it is, and focus on the fact Master Brian has a vision as a result, even though this will later be revealed as someone else's needful thing. Nothing in the movies contradict this, but I don't believe we ever see what exactly happens when one character touches another's needful thing. Prediction review. I said, the devil dispenses what I hoped would be the first of Satan's rules of acquisition, but it turns out to be his only advice on the subject. Are there more in the book and TV cut? Book? Aye. TV cut? No, sir. Correct. Low-hanging fruit, but I'll take it, and my book prediction stands. Wrong. Oh, right. He's the Lord of the Flies, not the Ferengi. I must note that for future reference. He dispenses the exact same negotiating advice, but not one iota more. Prediction review. I said, this is the only time money is actually mentioned, which absolutely begs the question, what happens if people can, afford the objects? Is this addressed in the book or TV cut? My guess, aye, and no, sir. Correct. The closest we get is a later moment in which a Mrs. Roberts, the woman who previously scolded Master Brian, leaves Needful Things empty-handed because, quote, it is a lot of money, and Devil Von Sydow just lets her go. Feels good to be right, but I suddenly have no idea why I said aye for the book. I'm changing that one right now. I think some authors would address it, but not King. Wrong. Meaning the revised version was wrong. The original was right. Kind of. It's complicated. We established with Master Brian, no one has enough to pay, because Devil Von Sydow asks you to make the first offer, accepts it as a down payment, then informs you the balance can be made up via a small favor. The movie, with the exception of Master Brian, and I guess Mrs. Roberts, dispense with the fiscal aspect of the transaction altogether. The book's version heightens the verisimilitude a bit, but the movie streamlines the exchange, so both versions are probably best for their respective mediums. Since I broached the subject of Mrs. Roberts, prediction review. I said, does Mrs. Roberts play a greater role in the book? I can't fathom what, but I'm leaning toward aye. Correct. Granted, greater role is pretty vague, and she doesn't do anything critical, but we do learn her first name is Nan, she owns the diner, not Bonnie, and that she has a good head for business that makes her crafty and a dangerous opponent. Actually, this info about her character makes me tip my hat to the screenwriter of Needful Things for selecting her as the only person who decides the price for a needful thing is too high, and simply chooses to live without it. The book focuses on Bonnie next. In the book, she runs a sewing store with the Simpsons-esque name You So-and-So, as I guess the idea of an extremely arthritic woman running a sewing store seemed like the exact ironic punishment the devil would choose, so King couldn't pass it up. She brings Devil Von Sydow wait for it, devil's food cake, meaning the movie actually chose the high road by swapping that for apple pie. Prediction review. I said, Devil Von Sydow mentions wishing he had some cheddar cheese to put on his pie. This is a real thing people used to do, but is it directly from the book? No firm stance here, but I'll wager aye. Wrong. Granted, my prediction was predicated on them eating pie, so, like the Tucker Talisman, I suppose I lost the forest for the trees. Just to rub salt in the wound, it is mentioned that the diner sells apple pie with vanilla ice cream, but alas, the addition of cheddar goes uncontemplated. When giving the cake, Bonnie mentions she feels like she knows Devil Von Sydow from someplace. So, prediction review. I said, meanwhile, Sheriff Ed Harris and the devil enjoy the pie Honey Bunny brought over while discussing what brought them to town. Strangely, the devil feels like he knows Sheriff Ed Harris from somewhere, but can't place it. The Truman Show, maybe? Seriously, I can't imagine why it isn't the other way around. Is it explained in the book and TV cut? Aye, and NASA. Correct. It's not explained, but Devil Von Sydow thinks he might know Sheriff Ed Harris from a big city. Pittsburgh, one assumes, since that's where Sheriff Ed Harris is from and where he lost his temper and beat a man to death. You know, I never thought about this before, but as much as we all love Ed Harris, that aspect of his character never comes across. Not once do I look at him and think, whoa, this guy is a race car in the red. In fact, I would almost call him the Zen Master. Yes, he gets angry, yells, even beats up Devil Von Sydow in this version, yet somehow always seems justified and in control. Not like his anger is coming from some dangerous deficiency of character. Anyway, do I think it's explained in the book? Well, that's more aye than ever. Wrong. In the book, Sheriff Ed Harris and Devil Von Sydow don't meet until the denouement. But even then, with Bonnie replacing Sheriff Ed Harris for this introductory meeting, the roles are reversed, as Bonnie feels like she knows the devil instead of the other way around. I think, in both cases, the line is hinting at a dark moment in a character's past. In Bonnie's case, it's guilt about the death of her daughter. In Sheriff Ed Harris's, it's regret about beating a man to death. Quick tangent, but both are changes to a character's backstory. In the movie, we simply don't know anything about Bonnie other than her job, arthritis, and relationship to Sheriff Ed Harris, so her inner struggle to forgive herself has been stripped away, along with almost everything else about her. In the book, Sheriff Ed Harris isn't haunted by killing a man, he's haunted by the death of his wife and child, potentially by his wife's hand. In both cases, the character's only real sin is one of omission, and that maybe they could have done something different. So on paper, if not on screen, the movie strengthens Sheriff Ed Harris's character while weakening Bonnie's. That's a shame, since honestly, learning about these two characters' inner lives are the best parts of the book. Just to put a bow on this section, the switch from Bonnie to Sheriff Ed Harris and his shiny new backstory was done for practical reasons, but I still don't understand why the switch from a character having the vague sense they know Devil Von Sydow to Devil Von Sydow having the vague sense he knows a character, which seems like it weakens the antagonist and is a screenwriting flagrant foul. Just to rub it in my face, the book specifically mentions that Devil Von Sydow goes upstairs to get serving utensils. Of course, he isn't officially open for business yet in the book and is presumably living out of boxes, but that was probably the conclusion we were supposed to reach in the film as well, so I'll take the hit. Hey, wouldn't you know it? One of the first things we learn about Buster is the kind of car he drives. Prediction review. I said, is Buster's car directly out of the book? It's a car, and this is King, so correct. I mean, I'm no car expert, but I believe that's a vintage apple red Cadillac Seville in the movie, and a Seville is called out in the book, so I'm spiking the ball and dancing off the field. In the book, while sending his deputy out to write Buster a parking ticket, it's actually Sheriff Ed Harris who refers to a crypt space, and not the deputy. Did the screenwriters want to do Sheriff Ed Harris a favor, and so threw the deputy under the bus? Honestly, why didn't everyone who wrote any version of Needful Things have Buster use this term? I just don't get it. But hey, this will redeem him. In the book, Sheriff Ed Harris makes shadow puppets. Yes, the exact kind of shadow puppets you're currently picturing. Take as long as you need to process that. We'll later learn he also does magic tricks. Do either of these pay off? The magic tricks are both a connection to his deceased son and will be used to make a connection with Master Brian's little brother. So yes, they will also become real magic and will be used to defeat Devil Von Sydow. So technically yes, but as the climax of the story goes completely unexplained, literally anything could have fit the bill, so not really? The shadow puppets are also inexplicably used to defeat Old Scratch, but again, it makes no sense and I can't believe it was written by one of our generation's most successful authors, so also no. Back to Buster. Prediction review. I said, my guess, like Harold Lauder, Buster is King's heavily bullied as a kid, author insert character. Like Harold, in the book, is he the most complex character, and does he possibly even have a poetic and moving death? Not that anything about this film would lead me to that conclusion. Oh, that's a 3-point from center court with nothing but net. I still firmly believe Buster is the most interesting and three-dimensional character of the book. Fun fact, even his Needful Thing is the most complex, given that it comes with a story and he actually uses it. Wrong. Although his paranoia is explained by way of a possibly schizophrenic uncle and father with mental health issues, softening some of the hard edge of his character, he still comes across as an egomaniacal monster and all-around crumb bum we can't wait to see die. And die he does, without pomp or fanfare. The book doesn't even give him the quasi-redemptive hero turn the movie offers, so he's arguably less dimensional in the book. Less necessary, too, since in the book, a King Legacy character named Ace Merrill plays Renfield to Devil Von Sydow's Dracula, making Buster second fiddle to a second fiddle. Yeah, I could not have gotten this one more wrong. I'm not mad, book. I'm just disappointed. Speaking of being wildly off the mark, prediction review. I said, inside Needful Things, elderly twins in matching sweaters are saying their goodbyes to the devil and will never be seen again. Is there more with them in the book and TV cut? There has to be. I'm giving 2 IUPs for the price of 1. Wrong. No equivocating here. They are neither seen before nor after this moment, despite having 36 minutes to have been established. Of course, this makes me more certain than ever they're in the book. Wrong. Nothing. Not one mention of twins, despite the presence of dozens, if not 100 characters not seen in the movie. No way to sugarcoat this one, and absolutely no idea why the movie cast twins. Movie, I guess you'll take that one to your grave. The town drunk is one of the first customers, and the movie once again made an improvement over the book in switching his Needful Thing from a foxtail car antenna ornament to a high school letter jacket. They amount to the same thing, nostalgic memories of his high school years, but the foxtail seemed too far removed. If he has such fond memories of cruising with his friends, why the foxtail that was attached to his car and not the car itself, other than the impracticality in the context of an antique store? Would the gear shift or floor mats have been just as good? Yeah, the letter jacket is the way to go. Roughly a fifth of the way through the book, the plot kicks off with Master Brian defiling the home of Wilma and Pete Jerzyk, whom I should probably refer to by name as they don't seem to own a turkey farm in the book. As that domino is falling, we learn both Master Brian's mom and Myra want the same picture of Elvis, marking the only time two characters covet the same needful thing. So, probably time to venture down that rabbit hole of madness. Prediction review. I said, is there a better explanation for why Elvis in the book? Aya. Of course there is. It's King and the King. I wouldn't be surprised if 60% of the book is about Elvis, and the other 40% Devil Von Sydow's car. In fact, I now want to read the book just to get more information on what the hell is going on with Master Brian's mom. Wrong. There is essentially no answer, save they both just really dig Elvis, and Master Brian's mom already has a minor collection of Elvis stuff and saw him perform once. Hindsight is 20/20, so it's easy to look at my prediction now and think, of course he doesn't explain it. King loves Elvis, so of course his characters love Elvis. No explanation needed. Then again, I've read You Know They've Got a Hell of a Band, in which Zombie Elvis, Janis Joplin, Buddy Holly, Roy Orbison, and Jimi Hendrix all make an appearance, so yeah, I thought there might be a little more meat on this bone. Live and learn. The lust of these two women for Elvis, and by extension the picture of him, is the only time we know of in either the book or film in which the compulsion to obtain a needful thing is overtly sexual. The Baptist Reverend in the movie does select a piece of erotic art, but he does so in the most prudish, least libidinous way possible, as if he's just an emotionally detached admirer of the genre. In the book, the photo produces virtual reality-level fantasies resulting in new heights of satisfaction. In fact, in the book, just to obtain the photo, Devil Von Sydow, in a rare breach of character, randomly demands fellatio of Myra before just as quickly abandoning that plan. I bring all this up as it seems like evidence of sexual addiction, and reading the book further buttresses my term paper's assertion King wrote the book not as a screed against materialism, but as a meditation on the nature of addiction, specifically his own, more specifically to alcohol and cocaine, or as Ace will later call it, South American bingo dust. And apparently, it's just as tasty as taters. Speaking of the Reverend, his nickname is Steamboat Willie. Between that and Buster Keaton, I would say this small town has a disproportionate number of cinephiles. But we do learn that his hatred of gambling isn't entirely driven by religious dogma, but personal history, as his father was a degenerate gambler. Not something that needed to be in the movie, but a great addition for the book, helping round out an otherwise incredibly one-dimensional character. But what of his hypocrisy on display in the film? Prediction review. I said, the priest just covets a nice, perfectly chaste chalice. Does the book dive deeper into the Reverend's hypocrisy? Oh, you better believe that's an eye-up. I stand by this prediction. Prove me wrong, book. Prove me wrong. Wrong. While reading, I failed to note what the Reverend received, if anything, so I'm pretty sure he either didn't receive anything or it was once again a piece of erotic art. If there was a mention, it wasn't anything interesting, and no further information is given about it. Also, the man himself isn't exposed as any kind of hypocrite. Obnoxious, definitely, but no hypocrite. So any which way you cut it, I was way off base. However, just to pull off this band-aid early, the book does, unfortunately, demonstrate King's penchant for including weird sex stuff. No judgment on our Elvis groupies, but we also have a character whose needful things are candid photos of a famous actress that amount to child pornography, a quick discovery of an old photograph of bestiality, And we learn the high school shop teacher likes to attend pedophile parties with Frank, the principal who appears briefly in the movie, who is also into child pornography. No, it's not his needful thing. For him, it's just a hobby. You know, this town is already pretty blue velvet. Not sure we really needed the devil to make it more unseemly. Also, not sure what to make of the fact I find it much more disturbing they attend together, as that is really losing the forest for the trees. Frank really throws me for a loop, because the prank played against him is to have his child porn collection revealed to his coworkers. Listen, Devil Von Sydow, I don't know what you think a prank is, but that ain't it. Kinda weird that, in this one case, the devil actually manipulates someone into vigilante justice. I guess even a broken clock really is right twice a day. Moving on to some less unsavory new material, in the book, the deputy has a needful thing, a fishing pole. And Master Brian's speech teacher, a character that didn't make any version of the film, receives that petrified piece of Noah's Ark we saw earlier, connecting her in a roundabout way to Master Brian, who has a crush on her. Call me crazy, but doesn't a piece of Noah's Ark constitute slightly more than a needful thing? It would have either massive financial and/or spiritual value to most people, not to mention entire fields of study and humanity as a whole. Granted, even Devil Von Sydow admits it's only rumored to be a piece of the Ark, so I guess it's a gray area, but it feels like having a character whose needful thing is the Hope Diamond. As Myra gets the picture of Elvis, Master Brian's mom has to be content with the pair of Elvis's sunglasses we saw in the TV cut. Honestly, that sounds like the better needful thing to me, and I'm not clear on why they both had to receive something, as that seems like it should decrease the drama, but I'm pretty Spartan and probably just don't understand the appeal of consumerism. The addition that really raises my eyebrow is a character with the moniker of Slopey Dodd. Actually, both eyebrows. First, I can't explain why, but I feel like I'm going to get in trouble just saying that name publicly. Second, he procured a needful thing for his mother. Does that count? That isn't fair and doesn't fit the addiction metaphor at all. Plus, he's, a little slopey. He can't be held accountable, right? I don't know. I'm moving on before I get canceled. The next big difference is the amount of time spent exploring Sheriff Ed Harris's history, specifically the family tragedy mentioned earlier. After Bonnie's tragic backstory, this is the best part of Needful Things. That's not surprising, as Stephen King is frequently at his finest when he puts monsters and multi-book mythologies and his love of B-horror films back in the toy chest, and dives deep into some quality character work. As evidence, I cite The Shawshank Redemption, of course, but also the truly haunting short story The Reach and the sci-fi short The Jaunt, which is not really horror, and yet absolutely nightmarish. Contrary-wise, let's see how Devil Von Sydow is handled in the book, which is pretty much what the next pages are devoted to. First, Devil Von Sydow is not only afraid of Sheriff Ed Harris, an apparent tough customer, but at one point he's even startled by the man, whom he thinks can see him through the window of Needful Things before realizing all Sheriff Ed Harris can see is his own reflection. This is weird. It diminishes the threat of the villain, and therefore the drama. Writing 101 says, bad idea, don't do that. Second, Devil Von Sydow frequently drops his smooth facade to scold or berate or otherwise demean his clients. This does conjure the image of a drug dealer who can openly denigrate his junkie followers, and we do see it in the movie through his treatment of Buster, but limiting it to that one relationship in the film made it feel special. In the book, it just seems arbitrary and implies he never really needs to put on airs because he never scares anyone away by revealing his true nature, even when he does so literally by extending his teeth and nails at a moment's notice. And picking someone up and twirling them over his head is just cartoonish and silly. Even shooting flame from his hand to incinerate Sheriff Ed Harris's business card reads as petty, diminishing instead of elevating his power. Finally, Devil Von Sydow mistakenly bestows the title Doctor on someone and is promptly corrected. This isn't the beginning of some personal revenge scheme, and he doesn't even get mad. He just makes a casual mistake. Why do you keep diminishing him, King? It's death by 1,000 cuts, but he's gonna bleed out eventually. We next get a lot of Bonnie backstory, in which we learn she became pregnant, headed to Colorado to avoid local judgment, ended up continuing on to San Francisco, then lost her child in an apartment fire while it was under the supervision of a babysitter. She then returns to Castle Rock, leaving the townsfolk to guess at what transpired during her sojourn out west. She holds her past and her pride so sacred she won't even share it with Sheriff Ed Harris. This wedge between them will later be used by Devil Von Sydow to keep Sheriff Ed Harris out of the picture. I realize I've been criticizing the book, compared to the movie, an awful lot, but I will say the scene of Honey Bunny ticketing Buster's house plays better in the book because he and his wife are out of the house in the book, making it feel infinitely more plausible. The way it occurs in the movie pushes the tension beyond the breaking point, reducing it to farce. The book's handling is far more believable and interesting, with Honey Bunny finishing pretty quickly, then growing comfortable enough to just hang out until she's almost caught when they return. This is actually justified a bit by the fact Devil Von Sydow essentially communicates both with her and some other characters in real time, nudging them forward by assuring them they're not going to get caught, something that wasn't part of the movie. In fact, later, when Sheriff Ed Harris questions Master Brian, the sheriff feels like even he can hear Devil Von Sydow talking to the boy. Maybe everyone in King's stories has a little of the shine? Just shy of halfway through the book, we finally get the payoff of Master Brian's window smashing with the confrontation between Honey Bunny, who once again lost her dog, and Wilma, the non-turkey farmer. Instead of going down at Wilma's house, they stab each other to death on a residential street. The book wins this round, as sans Ave Maria playing over the showdown, the clinical description of the brutality makes the book's version far less cheesy. Ditto the fact they encounter each other on a random street, not at the location either was expecting to surprise the other. The randomness, coupled with their indifference to the public nature of the conflict, grounds the encounter and makes it feel like something that could happen anywhere, anytime, regardless of how secure you might feel in your suburban safety bubble. Also noteworthy, the book is far more forensic in its handling of the crimes, beginning with this double murder. There's state police, morgue visits, motives, interviews, timelines. Sheriff Ed Harris's gut instinct telling him something about the evidence just doesn't add up. I particularly like this last element, as the need to outthink Devil Von Sydow's machinations makes Sheriff Ed Harris a more worthy protagonist. Don't get me wrong, it's probably for the best most of this material was excised from the movie, but a little inclusion of things like coordination with state police might have made the world seem bigger, and therefore more believable, and our protagonist more competent. All this talk of forensics means it's probably time for a prediction review. I said, "Oh, prediction time daily double. Do the book and TV cut have Sheriff Ed Harris doing actual police work to arrive at the conclusion Master Brian threw the apples? Tough call, but I'll go, wrong. This version has a little more police work, but it's mostly just shots of crime scenes being discovered and a couple extra lines of speculation on how the double murder, skinned dog, apple smashing, and turkey feces vandalism aren't simply a beef between Honey Bunny and the turkey farmer. But they currently think everything except the murder was done by one person, and I don't think anyone present believes Master Brian killed and skinned a dog, so I don't see any more reason for Sheriff Ed Harris to suddenly want to speak to him. The book could easily be more procedural, but King isn't really known for that, so I'm going to about-face and change my prediction about the book to NASA. Wrong. It's a gray area, as Sheriff Ed Harris doesn't so much prove he threw the apples, stones in the case of the book, as his gut tells him Master Brian simply knows more about the double murder than he's letting on. But that conclusion is reached after considering a lot of evidence obtained from a good deal of legwork, so I should have stuck to my guns. Credit where it's due, the switch from rocks to apples, from devil's food cake to apple pie, and the whole image system of apples in the movie was a great idea to add a subtle biblical/devil motif. The theatrical cut of the movie is more or less divided down the middle by Devil Von Sydow switching from selling antiques to selling arms. The book is more or less divided down the middle by the appearance of Ace Merrill, a legacy Castle Rock character that appears in other stories, including The Body, which would be adapted into the movie Stand By Me. There's even a moment later in which Ace remembers an event from that story. He adds nothing to this story, and if you believe less is more, his presence therefore detracts from the work. The question I grapple with is, would I have known he was a legacy character shoehorned in if I hadn't done some research before reading the book? I feel like I might have guessed it, as he's such a late addition. He references other characters and events from the Castle Rock mythos, and he comes racing in from out of town in a green Dodge Charger in a way that very much reminds me of the Kid from the expanded edition of The Stand. In fact, a lot about him reminds me of the Kid, but I can no longer tell if I'm spotting 50s greasers in King's books or if I'm seeing them where they don't exist. I'll let the fact he later calls someone Daddy-O resolve my indecision. Anyway, he's the one who covets, of all things, the original copy of Treasure Island. Had that been a prediction of mine, I absolutely would have gotten it wrong. He has no interest in reading it, mind you, but he sometimes sees it as a book written by his uncle about treasure buried in Castle Rock. Yeah, even though film is a visual medium, the Needful Things never change appearance in the movie. In the book, people see them differently. For example, in the movie, Master Brian has a Mickey Mantle baseball card. In the book, Sandy Koufax, but his little brother views it as the card of a different, far less famous player. When a member of law enforcement comes across Elvis's glasses, they're not shiny and new, but old and worn. Even Buster sees his racetrack as old and decrepit at one point, until Devil Von Sydow tells him it isn't, then Buster suddenly sees it as brand new again. Devil Von Sydow even states the things he sells might be gray blobs people imagine as they see fit. They might even be dreams. This seems very much in keeping with King's love of bespoke horror, in which monsters and such appear differently to each person who sees them. In fact, in the book, no two characters in town agree on the color of Devil Von Sydow's eyes, so there's that. Returning to Ace, he both deals and uses cocaine, so there's a white, powdery mountain of circumstantial evidence this story is about addiction. Actually, he's one of at least 3 characters who use and/or deal cocaine. Cocaine. Not weed or meth or heroin. Cocaine. The very monkey on Stephen King's back. I rest my case. Devil Von Sydow already has his hooks in Ace, courtesy of the book, but he straight up gilds the lily by giving him cocaine. Well, there goes the metaphor. Congratulations, you just turned subtext into text. The idea of the devil as both an antiques and arms dealer was already weird, but the book triples down by also making him a drug dealer. God, it's weird. Then again, the author was quite possibly using cocaine while writing this, so it all comes full circle. Ace's first task is retrieving Devil Von Sydow's car from Boston, which is loaded with guns and blasting caps. Yeah, for reasons I can't figure out, Devil Von Sydow arrived in Castle Rock, sans car. And no, I didn't forget to mention the dynamite. That he has Buster procure for some reason. I bring it up just so I can point out King proceeds to nest one unnecessary mythos reference inside another. For you see, while in Devil Von Sydow's garage in Boston, Ace sees the word Yog-Sothoth. That's it. He just sees it, then moves on. So, if you're not up to date with your H.P. Lovecraft, you, the reader, are just left wondering what the hell that was about. In fact, you might even be wondering why this strange character we're suddenly following, to the one city in this book you're sure isn't fictional, to procure things for a being whose power is procuring things, suddenly stumbles across a reference to the mythos of a different author. It's like holding a mythos up to a mythos so you can stare down an infinitely receding trail of literary lore. If the goal really was to drive the reader mad, it worked. And now I'm left wondering if the director added the word rosebud to the wall in the Master Brian suicide scene to pay homage to Orson Welles in a direct parallel to King homaging Lovecraft. Guess I'll never know. Still riding this mechanical bull of confusion? Well, hang on. Devil Von Sydow doesn't actually know what his needful things are, but he seems to see them as others do, so obviously the car is real, you're thinking. Oh, but I remind you, that particular car was never produced. Plus, post-climax, it will become a horse-drawn wagon, complete with impish coachmen, then fly off into the sky. So the point is, it ain't real either. What is it? I'll tell you exactly what it is. Never explained. If you like the horror genre as much as we do, you can preview the horror comic book Requiem for a Psychopath right now, for free, at the Inner Demon Entertainment website. Imagine a world in which horror film slashers are real. Then imagine a troubled teen bringing one out of retirement to help him take revenge on his bullies. It was written by me and drawn by friend of the show, Stephen Yu. Again, that's Requiem for a Psychopath on the Inner Demon Entertainment website. And, if you dig it, please either review and rate it 5 stars on Amazon, or don't rate and review it at all. Ratings of less than 5 stars send the algorithm into murder mode for some reason. Thanks. I hope you enjoy it. That sure was short. Yes, I'm afraid I had to decide between making this the longest episode yet, or making 2 of the shortest episodes yet, and opted for the latter. Rest assured, next episode will wrap up Needful Things, then it's back to Friday the 13th, the series. I promise. As the next episode is about a scarecrow, and I cannot wait. Thanks for listening, everyone. We know you have a lot of choices when choosing a Friday the 13th, the series podcast, and we sincerely thank you for choosing ours. Special thanks to Joshua Romeo for original music, and to Stephen Yu for original art. And be sure to check out the Joe on Joe podcast, the only podcast where Joe Schlepsky discusses G.I. Joe. If you want to support our show, you can leave a review and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. If you want an occasional update on our projects, you can sign up for our newsletter at the Inner Demon Entertainment website. And if you want to know exactly how behind schedule our latest episode will be, you can find social media links on our website. Think the book's ending couldn't possibly be more insane than the movie? Wrong. Next episode, I'll tell you why. Take care until then, and always remember what Carl said to Frylock. It don't matter. None of this matters. Good night, everybody.